We're talking football with Bengal Jim and friends. We're talking football. We hope this never ends. Jimmy, James, and Tom are back for more. Like Joey B, we're here for season 4 with Bengal guests and stories not heard before. There's Tony, Mark, and Jamie, as well as our charity. Hooter Nation joining from far and wide. Every Tuesday night, the guys are back at it live. By the fans, for the fans, from day one, it's time to have some fun. We're talking football with Bengal Jim and friends. We're talking football. We hope this never ends. The Bengal boys stop by to drop the speed. Don't get your popcorn ready and take a seat. Season 4 will end with the Lombardi.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a frustrating edition of Bengal Jim and Friends in more than one way that you all know. But thanks for joining us again tonight. We've got a lot to get to, and we do have two spectacular guests, Malik Wright and Solomon Wilcots. So without further ado, our host, producer, and talent, I give you James.
You know what? I was watching our intro, and I don't know if you noticed during the game on Sunday, the Bengals put up on the Jumbotron a SpongeBob reference. I'd like to think they stole that from our intro. Did you happen to see that?
I did notice that during the game, but we try to be good partners with the Bengals as much as we can and support them. So no copyright infringement.
No copyright infringement. Robert, Lindsay, Brandon, of course. Brandon wasn't the first one. That is going to be 2 weeks in a row. Let's see. Brian was at a family Thanksgiving, missed the game. Amanda, Haley, Joe, and Rock and Bengal. Welcome, everybody. Like Tom said, couple great guests tonight. I was strolling through Twitter on Sunday after the game, watching Sunday Night Football. I don't remember who it was, and happened to see a video of our man Malik. I think I sent it to you immediately, Tom. I was like, man, we gotta get him on, because what he was saying was some of the frustration that went back and forth in our text chain. About 6 p.m. Post game. So we're gonna bring Malik on, talk about that. As you said, Solomon Wilcots, and then another Monday night game this week in Jacksonville. Another big tailgate down there, so we'll have the particulars with that. So let's see. Jeff's there. Josh asked, where is everybody? Jimmy lost his voice. Mark is driving somewhere. The Canadian was supposed to be on here. We don't know where the Canadian is. And Tony has a migraine. So that is the report of all lieutenants missing in action tonight, Josh. So you're stuck. Also, we're going to bring Malik here on in a second, but I think Jimmy's boycotted Malik. I think Malik's been on like 3 times so far this year. I don't think Jimmy's been on once. I mean, we love Malik, no doubt about it, but who knows what Jimmy's doing. So without further ado, Tom, go ahead and introduce our first guest, please.
He's a great friend of the show and a great friend of Bengal fans everywhere. He has insider knowledge that nobody else seems to be able to get. He's logical. He's passionate, but he's also level-headed. And he had some thoughts on the game Sunday and maybe the state of the franchise. So it's a perfect night to have him on, and we welcome Malik Wright.
What's up, guys?
What's happening, Malik? How are you?
I'm good, man. Just got done actually doing State of the Jungle, literally fresh off the mic. So I'm live in the First Star Logistics studio, so coming at you guys from there.
How'd the show go earlier? Was any excitement like we saw post game Sunday? I said excitement, frustration.
Yeah, it was actually my crew was here. Evan, Danny, come pop in here real quick. But no, we had a nice little show where we talked about just potential names from the offensive side. I don't know if you guys can see there, guys.
Oh no, that's my name.
But yeah, we talked about everything. Honestly, we did a deep dive, discussed that. We're in the evaluation stage. We're very logical, right? Right, we're in the evaluation stage, and it sucks that our season has taken this type of a turn. But it is what it is, right? You're winless right now in the division. Um, it's not looking too great for playoff chances, but I also think that the evaluation stage is a unique spot to be in, especially since it's been so long since we've been in this evaluation stage and looking forward to. We're still going to support the Bengals. We're still going to be at games, but also just tempering expectations as well, I think is important.
Looking at the stats, I think it was on Sunday Night Football. Colts in that seventh playoff spot. With a win, we had the same record. Who would have thought that? We said a couple weeks back everything was still in front of us. Obviously, the Colts are on our schedule in a couple of weeks. Jacksonville's in front of us on our schedule this week. Cleveland again. So everything was in front of us, like you said. Now, if the playoffs aren't going to happen, technically we're not eliminated yet. But it is a chance to see our rookies. When you look at the rookies, we saw Myles Murphy get a sack on Sunday. DJ Turner getting all sorts of playing time with Cam Taylor-Britt out. Jordan Battle has looked good. So go ahead and talk about those rookies that we're going to see get even more snaps here, hopefully here in the second half of the year.
Yeah, I think Myles Murphy has definitely started to come on strong. He looked great he was starting to come on strong in the Buffalo game, and he's starting to come on strong even now here down the stretch. I think that this is the part of the evaluation stage that we're talking about. I think I want to see Jordan Battle in there on more pass snaps. I don't want to see Nick Scott, taking snaps away from him in the passing down. I thought that we would officially be getting more of Jordan Battle fully, and that hasn't been necessarily the case on passing downs. And I think that reared its ugly head at points on Sunday. So even more so, just knowing what you have with some of these younger guys, I think is important. I think that maybe, looking forward and not, taking some snaps off of guys like Trey Hendrickson, taking some snaps off of guys like Sam Hubbard, getting Joseph Asai in there more, getting Myles Murphy and Joseph Asai rushing together. I think these are things that we need to see from the evolution of the defense and the football team as a whole. I think that you have to, have a tip of the head and the hat, so to speak, and say, you know what? It's not the season didn't play out the way we wanted, but we need to know what we have going forward. So when number 9 is back in the lineup next year, when we do turn to these guys, and if we need to turn to these guys like Yoshi Voss, like Charlie Jones, like Shedrick Jackson, we'll know what we have.
Another shout out, DJ Avi had that nice special teams tackle.
Oh, yeah.
Lou Kevin's router out of Miami. So, kudos to those rookies. We know Lou is not fond of playing the rookies, especially on that defensive side of the ball. Yeah. But, I think we'll see a lot more of it. Before we go to Tom, here's a question already, and you touched on it on your shows, that running back position. I think Mo Ager had a comment, 8 rushes? I think he had that Joe Mixon had, and he said, Chase Brown was active finally after a stint of being hurt. I think his exact words were, does he fumble the ball every time in practice? Why are we not seeing him? And Joe's asking the same question. What's going on with Chase Brown, and why are we not seeing more touches?
I just think that he's not as highly on the depth chart as we all may have thought, or assumed that he would be, especially when you spend a pick on a running back. I think that is an uphill climb for Chase Brown to get more snaps. I think you look at guys like Mixon, guys like Trevion Williams, even guys like Chris Evans. I think those guys, I think him and Chris Evans are probably interchangeable, but I think those guys are all, in line to get snaps before Chase Brown is, to be honest with you. I have a bigger question though, and this isn't for necessarily you guys, but why aren't we seeing Demetric Felton, the guy that we put on our practice squad, a guy that showed a lot of promise with the Cleveland Browns, and all Bengals fans were excited? Why hasn't that guy been activated once? Why haven't we seen what that guy has? Right? You have Mixon taking majority of the snaps, the limited snaps that we do give him, right? Because we clearly can't run football. Why haven't we exasperated every single attempt to give guys snaps on this roster? What was the point? What was the benefit of picking up a guy like Demetric Felton and just store him on the practice squad? To me, it's a little bit asinine. That's just my thoughts.
Tom?
Malik, you mentioned and they may wait till they're officially eliminated, but this franchise faced this one other time. You guys are far too young to remember it. In 1983, we got to about this time of the year, and it was pretty clear the Bengals were not going to the playoffs. They got off to a miserable start that year. And Paul Brown sat down with Forrest Gregg. Everybody was getting the feeling that Forrest was not going to return as head coach by his preference. And Paul Brown basically said, we'd like to see some of the youngsters. We want to see some of the draft choices play more. And Forrest Gregg wanted none of that. He wanted, he wanted to win as many games as he could. He wanted, the best players in there at all times. And, he wasn't going to be here anyway. We're in a little bit of that situation now, other than there's not going to be a change at head coach.
No.
Are there guys, you just mentioned some names, but those are the guys that we want to see. I think the main thing we had this year, other than Joe's injury, was we had a lot of guys that we had confidence in that were going to do the job and did not do the job. What guys are on the roster now that are here, that we brought in that have not met expectations that you think are going to move on next year?
Oh man. That's a loaded question. I have a hard time seeing Nick Scott seen the life of his contract, to be quite honest with you. But I haven't really thought too much into that, actually. So that's a good one. Guys that are moving on next year, I'll be interested to see what happens with Jackson Carman next year. I mean, the guy, he's a second round pick, has not worked out, obviously. Standing off on the sideline with Max Sharpen, probably talking about what tacos they're going to eat after the game or something like that.
If he was active, how many games has he been inactive this year?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's been a few. Irv Smith is a guy that I don't expect to be back next year, and Cincinnati just has not worked out the way we anticipated it. I think this is, like I said, this is the evaluation stage. You need to know what you have. I know there people are like, yes, I saw some people saying I feel comfortable with Tanner Hudson, going into the season as a tight end one next year. And I'm like, that's low hanging fruit, guys. Almost 30 years old, tight end, practice squad lifer, hasn't worked out. I think there's still a spot for him on this roster if he's able to prove himself, but he should not be the tight end one. He should always be looking to upgrade and not just settle, right? He's shown some promise. He might be the best receiving threat tight end we have on the roster, but that also isn't saying much when you're competing with Drew Sample and an undersized tight end and Irv Smith as well. So you just want to see more from a lot of these guys. Down the stretch here.
We're going to have needs across the board, offensive and defensively, mainly on the lines. I mean, if it was up to me, they'd take an offensive lineman in the first round almost every year. But when we get to tight end, instead of, and nothing against Hayden Hurst and CJ Uzama, loved them both. They were 100% guys. Instead of looking for a deal at tight end, is it time to invest in a high draft pick or high free agent money and go out and get a guy who can not just catch the ball, but run block as well, who is an all-around top-line wide receiver, and give Joe Burrow another asset when he's out there on that field. And, instead of, signing a guy in May from the free agency period or after the draft, who's left. Tight end's been a liability this year.
I definitely get the notion that they're going to prioritize tight end this year. I think that they saw how it hasn't worked out. Me personally, I don't know who they'd have interest in, but once again, I am going to be on the table saying there's a guy named Mike Gesicki who just experienced a 1-year deal with the New England Patriots, who has once again proven that he could be a top-tier receiving threat. It's not going to cost a lot. Would not mind seeing that guy being brought in on a 2 to 3 year deal, not a 1-year deal, a 2 to 3 year deal, and seeing what he can do with this Bengals team. Then you should also draft a tight end, right? So, but the priority should be to make it so when you reach the draft, you've already addressed the tight end position. Therefore, whoever you're drafting doesn't have to be thrusted in to a spot that they're not ready for, and that's what the mentality has to be. I know Duke Tobin's been praised a lot for his drafting, but I think it's a little easier to draft when you do have top picks and stuff like that. And I see someone like Tom McGill saying in the comment section, Gesicki can't block. Can Irv Smith? That's my point. But I do
in Irv Smith's defense, he's balancing out his play of not getting open by not being able to block.
Correct, and he's undersized at that. Not trying to knock on the guy. But I do think that if you are trying, because to be honest with you, the Bengals aren't really asking their tight ends to block, and it seems like they like I'm sorry, they're not asking their receiving tight ends to block a whole lot. They also want the tight ends that they do have on the roster. Like they prefer it. They prefer it be our receiving tight ends, and then we have two other tight ends that can block, whether it be the Mitchell Wilcots or the Drew Sample, to do the dirty work, right? That's okay. Like, you can bring back Drew Sample, you can bring back Mitchell Wilcox, but you should also have that premier threat, receiving threat at the tight end position, because I think that guy would make things a lot easier on Joe Burrow, on the receiving core as a whole, because he's a security blanket in the league. Let's talk about the league for a second. The league is still trying to find ways to stop a tight end. If you have a tight end that can stretch the field, that can be a premier threat, that can unlock the offense completely.
At the top of the show, we talked about how good last year's draft was with Miles Murphy, DJ Turner, Jordan Battle, and going into the receivers. That's going to segue into the question. But if we look at last year's draft, one of the highlights or best positions was that tight end, which we totally neglected. I think last year was our year with how deep that tight end class was. But listener Josh here, who's also at the tailgate, says 14 snaps for Yoshi, 4 for Chuck. Why can't they see more snaps? And I think adding on to that, especially with the injury of T. Higgins, our number 2 wide receivers out, in the limited amount of snaps that Yoshi's had, he's had 2 touchdowns, he had a nice catch over the middle on Sunday. Why aren't we seeing these rookies get more snaps, Malik?
This is going to sound harsh, okay? I genuinely do not think that this offensive coaching staff knows what they're doing. I genuinely don't. Trent Irwin saw a majority of the bulk of the snaps at wide receiver. But also, it's not up to the coaching staff to pass to these guys, right? There's from a philosophical standpoint, there is a lot of flaws with the construction of this roster. You have 3 quarterback guys in Zack Taylor, quarterback coach, Brian Callahan, quarterback coach, Dan Pitcher, the next quarterback guy, and the offensive coordinator in waiting when Brian Callahan was supposed to move on to become a head coach. They're all great at quote unquote evaluating the quarterback position. I question that a little bit, guys. I got to be honest. I question that a little bit, because it's the same staff that said, you know what, we're going to trade up and we're going to draft Ryan Finley. That didn't work out. Then this is the same staff that said, you know what, we're going to pick up a guy that has been a practice squad lifer, has never taken an NFL snap as a player in the regular season, in Jake Browning. And one could even say, if it wasn't for the Bengals taking a chance on him, would Jake Browning even be in the NFL? Because as that guy tells you, he was ready to go coach. He was ready to go do something completely different. I do struggle with the evaluation prospect of the quarterback position, because for me, for a team that is quote unquote looking for a championship and trying to compete for a championship, your backup quarterback can't be a guy that has never taken a regular season snap. And then you can't then go out there and run the ball 8 times with a guy that's never taken a regular season snap and expect you ran the offense as if Joe Burrow was still the quarterback when he's not. So there's just a lot of questions in there.
Perfect segue here to Brett's question about Zack Taylor relinquishes play calling duties. And that was one of your hot topics there on Sunday night. Taking a step back, looking at offensive coordinator position tied into a head coach. We saw Brian Ferentz having his contract at Iowa College. I know it's totally different. He had a 25-point clause in his contract that they either average 25 points a game, and that doesn't even count defense. You either get that or you don't make it next year. Obviously, he didn't make it. He's fired. I'm not saying put a 25-point clause in Zack Taylor's contract as offensive coordinator, but I agree with Brett. I think it may be time for Zack to step aside. Go ahead and elaborate on that.
100%. And again, I like Zack Taylor. We had a great conversation in the offseason, just him and I one-on-one. It was awesome. It's great talking with him. Love the guy. Not a great play caller. I also question Brian Callahan. It feels like there's a lot of yes men in there that are all, I don't think that the solution, right? I don't want to put Troy Walters in there, because we haven't gotten a sample size of Troy Walters at all as a play caller. But just from right now, where we see Dan Pitcher, Brian Callahan, and Zack Taylor, I don't know if the solution from a play calling standpoint is currently on this coaching staff. And that's okay, guys. I think Zack Taylor is a great head coach, great leader of men, can allow him to be the CEO. But bringing a guy that has the chops as a play caller, you think about what the Ravens did, right? Harbaugh has been in the league for a while. has been a coach of the Ravens for such a long time. They bring in a guy like Todd Monken, who was one of the best play callers in the NFL. It didn't work out in Tampa. He went to Georgia, coached, got a couple national championships, came back to the league. All of a sudden, Lamar Jackson looks like a completely different quarterback under his tutelage. So don't be afraid to step out of the box. I think egos need to be put aside a little bit here, right? And I understand you want to be a play caller, but we have to judge it off, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And the fact of the matter is, this Bengals offense has not shown to be consistent at all under the Zack Taylor tutelage. And when we have seen it take a step, it was because Joe Burrow got drafted as the quarterback. Joe Burrow made a lot of changes down the stretch. Especially during the Super Bowl run when he was calling a lot of his plays for himself. So I think you need to bring a guy in here who has chops, who has experience. We talked about Zach Robinson, a guy who worked at PFF, who is now the passing game coordinator for the Rams, right? Evan worked alongside of him, thinks the world of him. We mentioned a couple of other names. We mentioned Todd Haley potentially. We mentioned a lot of people who have called plays in the National Football League. Now, Zach Robinson hasn't, but he's widely praised around the league. You want to bring a guy in here who, again, can take pressure off of Zack Taylor as the head coach and play call, and allow Zack Taylor to really focus in on just being the coach, so that other things don't fall by the wayside. And again, that's not saying Zack Taylor will never be the play caller again. You obviously hire a guy like Zack Taylor because you want to develop some type of consistency on the offensive side of the ball, especially with your young quarterback. But I don't get the sense that Joe Burrow needs his head coach or to be the play caller as well. You look at LSU when he was there with Ed Orgeron. Ed Orgeron was nothing but besides the boss of the team, essentially. That was what his job was, to keep everything in order. But you do want to get a guy in here that can help Joe Burrow and can properly construct an offense. I think the issue with me is I don't know if I have necessarily a problem with Zack Taylor's route concepts and stuff like that. I more so have a problem with the design of the game plan. Like, it's run the ball a little bit, then completely go away from it. And to me, that's just not. Listen, it's been 5 years. We saw it with Andy Dalton. We saw it with Joe Burrow. We've seen so much of it, right? And I think that it's starting to take a toll on the defense. And I think that's why the defense is taking us a complete step back this year. 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out will get to anybody. And I think at some point, Zack Taylor, the Blackburns, the Brown thing, to look at themselves and say, you know what? It's not working out with you being a play caller. You're obviously a great head coach. You led us to the Super Bowl. You're a great leader of men. The players rave and they love you. That's great. But think about it this way, James and Tom, and the listeners. In any job that you get, if I am let's say I am the best sales associate, or I'm the best bagger at ShopRite or Kroger, and I get promoted to store manager, am I still going to be the person bagging in the lines? No, I'm going to have other people doing those jobs, right? It's a promotion. Becoming the head coach of a team is a promotion. And some guys can juggle it all. Some guys can't. And I think it's okay to delegate. The true definition of leadership is delegation. There's nothing wrong with delegating the responsibilities down to someone else to do it and trying to get the most out of it. And I think it would behoove Zack Taylor. It would be in Zack Taylor's best interest, if he wants to see this team succeed, to not get in his own way and take a step down and say, hey, this isn't working out. Let's let somebody else call that. Let me focus on being the head coach of the team and what got me into the spot. That's just my thoughts.
I agree 100%. Tom?
A little bit that, again, going back in Bengals history, Malik, at the end of the 87 season, where the Bengals were supposed to that year, a lot of people forget the strike year, the Bengals were a threat to go to the Super Bowl that year. A lot of people were picking them to go to and win the Super Bowl. The season was a disaster in so many ways, but at the end of the year, when Paul Brown sat down with Sam Wyche and they thought that was going to be to give him his dismissal, instead Paul said, I need you here. I want you here, but you do a tremendous job. You are an offensive genius. I want you in there crafting the game plan every week. I want you to have the power to overrule your coordinators. I want you to decide if we're going for it on 4th down or we're kicking a field goal, going for a touchdown. But utilize some of the guys there, and that's how Bruce Coslet became the offensive coordinator and called the plays. Now, yes, Sam would overrule him. In fact, a lot of players on that team said Sam and Bruce's fighting over how to run the offense made it the juggernaut that it was at the time. So, again, an adjustment there might be made. I still think the elephant in the room with our offense, more than the play calling, more than the inability to run the ball, which is why I think we do throw so much, because we can't. Giving Jake Browning 3rd and 7 every time isn't going to do anything for him. It's still that offensive line. And I'm as bad as anybody else. I will complain about one guy one week.
Mm-hmm.
It's like whack-a-mole. And then the next week, it's somebody else. Cordell Volson has not played well most of the year, but on Sunday, he was an absolute stud.
Mm-hmm.
He was really getting the job done. Jonah Williams started out a little slow. Then he's played like a Pro Bowler till about the last 2 weeks. Is there time for a new offensive line coach? Is there time for new thinking there? And are 5 guys underperforming?
I love that you asked this question, man. I love it. Let me start off by telling you, my answer is going to shock you. No, it's not time. It's not time. What if I told you, Tom, that the offensive line hasn't been given a fair shake? You'd probably think I'm crazy, and most people would think I'm being crazy.
In certain things, like,
Mm-hmm.
Alex Kappa hasn't had the season we thought he would. Alex Kappa's also been playing hurt. I mean, he's just one of those guys. But I think some guys have underperformed.
Now, I'll tell you this. I called plays at a very, very small level. I come from a football family. My uncles play football. My brother is one of the best football players to come out of the state of New Jersey. My first opportunity of coaching, I was just supposed to be brought on as an analyst for a high school football team. They got me in a room for X's and O's, and they made me the head coach of the freshman football team right off the bat. Right? That's just my little braggadocious thing really quickly to just say, hear me out. The offensive line is very similar to the quarterback. You have to allow them to get into the game. You know the saying, you have to earn the right to rush the passer? Mm-hmm. You guys know that saying, right? The offensive line, the offense has to earn the right to run play action. The offense has to earn the right to drop back most of the game, 80%, 85% of the game, 89% of the game. They have to earn the right. All offensive linemen are physical, are nasty, right? They want to get into the game. If you don't allow them to get into the game, they're going to struggle. The offense is going to struggle and everything won't gel. That's why I would say probably about 95% of the first play of every offense to start out a game is handing the ball off to a running back. Allow the offense to get into a groove. It's the reason why before the game, they all run in motion with each other, right? Because they want to make sure that everybody's performing in unison. If you're dropping back right off the bat, whoa, we didn't even get a chance to go out there. It's like you're going to second base with a girl that you're taking on the first date. You have to ease your way into the game. And that's when I talk about the construction of the game plan. This is the things I'm talking about. Like, for me, that's why running under center is so important, because it makes you less predictable. If you run the ball with your running back, I don't care if you're not having success. But if, a lot like the Texans game, if you are having success and you are averaging like 4 yards a carry, why go away from it? So if you hand the ball off to that running back, right, and you allow the offensive line to get into it, and then the next play, boom, you come out of play action, and then you throw the ball deep or something like that, you're now allowing this offensive line to gel. My issue is the coaching staff does not allow this offensive line to gel. They come right out of the back. Right off the back, they're throwing a screen pass. Like, where did you even earn the right to do that? Where did you allow this offensive line to get into it? Where did you allow this offense to even gel? They haven't. So we're blaming the offensive line a lot, but it's very reminiscent of Bill Lazor's offense. When he was the offense coordinator here in Cincinnati, he was allergic to running the football.
Oh, you're bringing back bad memories. Did you have to go there?
I'm got to be honest, because this offensive coaching staff is literally resembling of it. Bill Lazor was allergic to running the football everywhere he went. And it hurt the offensive line. The offensive line had poor performances because of it. But exactly like you're protecting the quarterback, you got to be able to protect these offensive linemen. You can't just allow TJ Watt and all these different guys to just tee off on them from start to finish of the game. It just can't happen.
Malik, we have our next guest in the waiting room.
Mhm.
Would you mind sticking around? We'll go 4 on the screen, and
Sure.
if you have some questions for him as well. Tom, go
Sure.
ahead, and we're going to have 2 guests on at once here. Go ahead and introduce our next guest, with Malik staying on and being part of the team.
He was a member of the SWAT team and a member of that Super Bowl 23 team, an outstanding safety. And when he left the ranks of the NFL, worked his way from the bottom right up the media ladder, national TV, and now he gets me from my home to work every morning at my desk on Sirius NFL Radio. So we welcome again another tremendous friend of the show, Solomon Wilcots, number 41. And there he is.
Solly, how you doing tonight?
Doing great. Tom, James, Malik, good to be on with you. Good to see you. And wish we were talking amongst better times for our Cincinnati Bengals.
We all are in agreement. Where Malik's done I know you just came on a couple minutes ago, but we've been barraging Malik with questions about what's gone wrong, what's gone right here in the first half of the year. Certainly the season's not over. One thing we asked Malik about, and we'll get your input, is the safety position. We have the rookie in Jordan Battle, who's starting to see more and more playing time. Nick Scott, to use, I don't know the words, maybe hasn't been what we thought he was going to be this year. Do you want to talk about Jordan Battle and what we're seeing there out of the safety position thus far?
Yeah, first I want to just kind of pick up where you guys left off with Malik, because I thought he did a wonderful job of really sort of describing what many of us have been talking about when you hear these terms like complementary football. A lot of people kind of organically understand and know what that is. I think what people have not been able to do is sort of reverse engineer what that looks like if it's not happening, right? If you don't have complementary football, what happens? And I think what Malik was describing is exactly what the antithesis or the opposite of complementary football. When you don't run the ball, you're not helping your offensive line. You're making their jobs that much harder. You're making it harder for the quarterback, to be honest with you. Everyone knows that an offense that can run the ball, it helps the quarterback. You protect the quarterback better. It creates greater separation for the wide receivers, because as a secondary, you're too busy. Every defensive player has to decide first, is it a run or is it a pass? And if you don't offer that illusion, then you remove the mystery, and it makes it easier for them to do their job, which is only one thing. They're throwing, everybody. Yeah, we know they're throwing. I don't have to worry about the run. So now I can hug up closer to receivers. But if you're running really well, you're going to go play action off of that, and you put the defense in that state of flux, it does everything. It buys more time for the receivers to get open. It helps your offensive lineman to stay engaged on a defender a little bit longer. It provides a little more separation in the pocket and a little more time for the quarterback to survey and get rid of the ball. It does everything for the offense. So I thought he did a really good job of explaining that. And that helps me to answer the question about Nick Scott and what's going on in the secondary. By virtue of the fact that the offense is not operating at a high level, I do think there are some residual effects of how it's not complementing the defense, right? These pieces aren't fitting together. You have an offense that goes 3 and out on 2 to 3 consecutive drives. Now you got a defense that's tired. You got a defense that's going to begin to wear down over the course of a game. And that's why, uncharacteristically, the Lou Anarumo defense has given up over 150 rush yards for 3 consecutive weeks. It just coincides with a 3-game losing streak. These numbers are part and parcel. They run together. Once you start to see the puzzle come together, you can see how it all fits. And because the inadequacies on offense, it's harder to cover up maybe some of the deficiencies on defense, because no defense is perfect, especially when you let 2 top safeties go, like Von Bell and Jesse Bates, who were phenomenal communicators. Every defensive coach will tell you that a quiet defense is a bad defense. It's an unproductive defense. That means you got to be able to communicate you're talking, you're making sure that all the bases are covered. And that's what Von Bell and Jesse Bates did for this defense. Your safeties are like your quarterback for the defense. I can tell you right now, as soon as a quarterback comes into the line of scrimmage, there's two things he's checking: the Mike backer and what are the safeties doing. Do I have single high safety? Do I got split safeties? Those safeties' ability to disguise and really move around and create a cloudy picture for the quarterback means everything to the defense. So when you have a Nick Scott who's brand new, who's trying to learn on the fly, and you have a Jordan Battle who's a rookie who's still learning. Dax Hill is year number 2, so he's still getting his undergraduate degree in this defense. The other guys have their masters, right? So I'm sorry I'm taking a while, but I'm trying to build a picture for you to be able to see that it's not one thing. There are multiple things. And when those multiple things begin to break down, it really makes it difficult for just on any given Sunday for them to say, okay, we got it. And then come out and, the defense is going to be something different than what we've seen so far.
No, I like that perspective. Go ahead.
On Sunday, I apologize, James. The Steelers had the ball 14 more minutes than almost a full quarter, more than the Bengals did. In the fourth quarter, they were able to do a lot more misdirection, as we saw, and get some clutch first downs. But also we saw Bengals that we rely on, who for 2.5 quarters were money, guys who are great tacklers that it wasn't happening. It wasn't happening the last 7-8 minutes of the game. Is it that big a trickle down? Because I know one thing, we have a mutual friend. Unfortunately, we lost him, Jerry Jones, not the one in Dallas, but the old drugstore list.
Yeah.
And who was a very close friend of mine. I know you've interviewed him. And he told me several things that have always stuck to me. But one thing he said was a truly great quarterback can cover up a lot of problems on the team, both offensively and defensively. Yeah. We don't have our great quarterback anymore. Are we seeing a lot of those a lot more warts pop up on this team?
Well, obviously, I believe Joe Burrow is one of those great quarterbacks. But when you remove someone like a Joe Burrow or Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers from the team, everything's going to show up. And you say, well, how can a quarterback cover up so many warts, right? Let's go. I'll give you an example. You go to the 2010 Indianapolis Colts, the Peyton Manning-led Colts. They were built to play a certain brand of ball because of the kind of quarterback they had. What was Peyton? He came out, he diagnosed things real quickly. He loved to score on the very first possession of the game because he wanted to play with the lead. He would have this thing where he would want to score on the very last drive of the first half, knowing they were getting the ball for the first drive to start the second half, and he'd score there. He'd get separation by 14 points. That's why they would defer on the opening kickoff. So it was all choreographed, and he was that good. Joe Burrow is that good. Tom Brady's that good. The good ones, you can really strategize around their abilities to come through in critical moments. And I've talked with Peyton about this a lot, and I talked with Bill Polian, the general manager who built that team. And that's why they had small edge rushers like Robert Mathis and Dwight Freeney. You know why? They were playing with a lead. When you play with a lead, the other team they can't run the ball. They're chasing points on the scoreboard. So they're in that known position. They got to drop back and throw. Oh, we're ready for that because we're coming to rush the quarterback. We're built to rush the quarterback, to play coverage on the back end. When Peyton Manning was hurt throughout the 2010 season, subsequently, they end up losing enough games to garner the first overall pick to draft Andrew Luck the next year because it all fell apart. Now teams are pounding the run game. They're not built to defend the run. I remember Jim Irsay, he was angry with Bill Polian. Like, what do you mean we can't? One guy means that much to the team. They said, yeah. yeah. And they started showing all these connective points. It's like the hub of a wheel with all of these spokes. That quarterback is the hub. He is the central force, the structure that holds it all together. He can't get it done by himself. I will tell you that. However, it covers up a lot of things. It's a stabilizing force for you now to play a certain way, because under today's salary cap, no roster is built perfectly. Trust me when I tell you, not even the Kansas City Chiefs. That's why they let Tyreek Hill go. They said, you know what, we'll cover it up. We'll figure it out. And they're still trying to figure it out. They won last year, but with the most drops in the NFL, they don't have as many explosive plays. They're still trying to cover it up. So it's very important to understand that in the way that these teams are constructed. And yeah, I think Jerry Jones, he knew exactly what he was talking about when he made that statement.
Now, Solly, first and foremost, it's a pleasure to be on with you, man. I see you every single year at the combine. We say hello to each other in passing.
Thank you.
But I guess my question for you is, what are some things that Lou Anarumo, this Bengals defense, can do to try to, simulate more pressure, right? There's a lot being asked of Trey Hendrickson, but I feel like it's almost in a desperate attempt at times, because like this past Sunday, you saw them drop Trey Hendrickson into coverage in rush 3. That's not a recipe for success, because Trey Hendrickson has been the only guy from a consistency standpoint that has proven, hey, I can rush the passer at an elite level. So what are some things that you think that they can do to generate more pressure? Obviously, Miles Murphy's starting to come on strong. Joseph Asai is a guy that has shown flashes, but not nearly enough. So what are some things that you think this defense can do to get more pressure at the quarterback?
Great question. First, I will say this. If you see Trey Hendrickson dropping, don't automatically on its face think that that's the wrong way to use him. That's not the proper use. One play in and of itself does not tell a whole story. And here's what I mean. One, Trey is a relentless rusher. He's a relentless guy. Sometimes you have to save him from himself because he's coming all out. And rushers, as you well know, they're going up against bigger men. They wear down over the course of a game. So you see them shuttling in and out. And they were trying to get them some rest so that they can play fresh. But if you're trying to get the line to slide to Trey, right, and then you know that you're going to sneak a defender, drop him into the box, and now overload to the other side, get him to slide the protection towards Trey Hendrickson, that's a good time to drop him, because you already got him accounted for. You're sliding the line, you can double take, and now you're trying to work that other side where you have more than they can block, because you got him to slide over to Trey, and then you dropped him out. Yeah. And so if they're going to throw hot, he's going to be in the throwing lane. That's really what you're doing. They're not asking him to cover anyone. You and I both know you're covering an area. You're trying to steal a passing lane, i.e. James Harrison in the Super Bowl against Kurt Warner, right? He stole the passing lane, right? That's all he did, was jump where they would throw the slant behind him. The zone blitz, that's what it's really all about. And so that's good use of Trey Hendrickson. It's using him to get the offensive line to act one way, and then it plays into your hand because you're building your pass rush over on the other side. I think that's brilliant use of him, and still allowing him to get some ample rest while staying on the field, right? So doing more of those things. I think running more stunts and twists. You get, I mean, let's face it, offensive linemen, they hold, so can defensive linemen. You're going one way, they pull, and then you wrap Trey around. He's coming up the middle. That guy can run and he can track. So can Sam Hubbard when he's on the field. They can run and they can track quarterbacks, the mobile ones even, right? So you could do more of that kind of stuff. I love zone pressures. I love pressure, playing zone behind it, because it allows all eyes to be in on the quarterback. And it allows you to match up to the patterns of routes that receivers are running. You know this, that receivers don't just run routes in a vacuum. They're all built on one another. They're built to be a combination. So if one guy's going in, you can bet the other guy's going out, right? And you don't ever want to see two receivers in the same place. So these combinations, I think, and that's where having youth in the secondary can work against you, because once you've been in this league, maybe 3 years, 4 years, certainly by the time you're in your 5th or 6th year, this stuff is automatic. That's where Mike Hilton is operating on that level. Jesse Bates was a guy on that level. Von Bell was on that level, because they had already played they're off their rookie contract. Now they're at another level, which tells you why you should really be thinking about compensating those players while they're in their prime, right? But that's for another day. Our defense misses those guys a lot. And now we're going through the growing pains of nurturing players to try to get them to that level. Lou Anaromo asked his defensive backs to do a lot and learn a lot. There's only a few defensive coaches that really on the back end have that kind of volume. Brian Flores, I think you saw him in the Vikings game last night. He's one of those guys. Bill Belichick's one of those guys. McDermott would love to have that when they're operating at a high level. He's one of those guys. But since he's lost some of his players due to injury, he's had to become more basic. When you become more basic, quarterbacks are going to lock in on you. And it's like playing a game of chess. I don't know if you ever played a game of chess. You make a few moves, but then once you see that board, then it's like checkmate even before you made the moves. And that's what's happening to a secondary when you have to overly simplify your coverages.
Thank you for
Tom,
that.
go ahead. And thanks, Malik. We know you got to run. We'll have a couple more minutes with Solomon. So we appreciate your time tonight, Malik.
Appreciate you guys.
Take care, Malik. Nice seeing you.
Solid. You as well, Solly.
Solomon, you still follow this team very, very closely, even though you're neutral. 3 hours every morning on NFL radio. This last month, what would you like to see different? They're not out of it yet, but let's say they do officially get out of it and they've got another 4 or 5 games to play. What changes would you like to see? What would you like to see different? What names would you like? I mean, we've got to be thinking about next year. Are we going to have T. Higgins? Are we going to have a hole at right tackle? Do we play Yosivas a little more?
Well, first of all, we got a hole at right tackle now, right? we got a pretty big hole at right tackle. Now there's some things that we could do to help. We got to run the ball more effectively and more efficiently. We should be operating more under center. I think Malik was 100% right. And here's the reason why. Look, I don't pretend to be smarter than Zack Taylor. I think he's a really good coach. In fact, I think we acquiesce to what one of the best quarterbacks in the league want to do. And they all want to play from shotgun now. I'm just telling you right now, they all do. Peyton Manning wanted to be in shotgun. Tom wanted to be in shotgun when he got to Tampa. That's all. He was all shot. At the end, Ben refused to get under center. But it's not about the one guy. It's about the entire team. And the reason why we operate under center, I can tell you right now, if I'm on defense, I love a quarterback who's exclusively shotgun because he's removed most of the possibilities of what they can do and how they can disguise what they want to do by going into shotgun. Take the San Francisco 49ers, for instance. Almost exclusively under center. So was Joe Montana. So was Steve Young. They were under center because Bill Walsh, the way that he designed, and that's what all these offenses, they're all derivatives of that. The pass game is coordinated with the drop steps of the quarterback. 3, 5, 7-step drop, slant, quick out,
right,
intermediate routes, 5-step. And that timing of the offense. And then everything off of it, the crossing, the over, the fake the run, half naked boots. You have a 7th-round pick, the last player chosen in the draft, playing at an extremely high level in Brock Purdy. How can they achieve that? Because the 49ers get off the bus and we're running the football. That's why they traded for Christian McCaffrey, because he's one of the best hybrid dual running back. He can run it, but he's going to help us in the pass game. And we got 5 eligible guys who can all make plays when it comes to creating yards after the catch. So everything starts, though, coming off the run game, coming off run action, coming off run look. I can't tell you how much it keeps the defense off balance, and it keeps them in chase mode almost the entire game.
Before I let James ask you a question or two before we let you go, building on that, do you do the running back a disservice running out of shotgun because he's further back? The defense can see him. He doesn't have as much of a chance to adjust. He's, so far back from the line of scrimmage. He can't make that cutback.
Well,
Can't
he's gonna have the same depth. Sometimes you can even put him a little deeper. But in this scenario, he's standing right next to a quarterback, which means that restricts some of his lateral movement. It restricts even some of the vision when a guy's standing next to you, as opposed to if you're in an I formation or if you're back. Now you can see tackle to tackle. You can see it all, and you're not restricted with what way you can move, right? So there are a lot. If you talk to running backs, you talk to running coaches, even offensive line coaches, they'll tell you that the running back is freed up even more and less encumbered when the quarterback's under center, and that he's restricted a little bit more out of shotgun. I'm not saying it's impossible. You have to have some runs out of shotgun because you don't want, as soon as you go into shotgun, for the defense to say, they're throwing. All their tendencies show that every snap out of shotgun is a pass. You want, but primarily, when you put him under center, you can do everything from there. You can run it. You can play action shots. Your pass. It helps everything. It's like a fertilizer, and because what it does, it causes the defense to pause. You can't just go flying up the field as an edge rusher. You can't just go blitzing as a linebacker. You got to check your keys. You can't just drop in that hook to curl, because what if they're running it? You just vacated an area they're running. If you're the safety, you're trying to disguise something next, quick hit and run game while you're trying to get back to your depth down. Now here comes that running back. So it literally, I'm telling you now, it's kryptonite for the defense when the run game's working and now all your pass plays are coming off that run action. That's why teams have gone to what we call RPO, run pass option. It's kryptonite for defenses when they have to defend both. But when you just give them one option to defend, my job just got a whole lot easier.
James?
Solomon, we appreciate you coming on. We asked this question to Malik. We're going to end with this question to you. You're sitting in Mike Brown's office. Malik used a good term. Zach's a great CEO. Does he have too much on his plate running the offense? If you were Mike Brown, would you go to in the offseason? I don't think anything's going to happen here in the last 6 weeks and say, Zach, we love what you're doing from a CEO perspective. Let's bring in an offensive coordinator.
No, I like Zack Taylor. Here's what. That should not be the hue and cry for Bengals fans. Zack Taylor's not your problem. He's what's good. He's the guy that took you from the bottom to 2 straight AFC championship games. And now, because it doesn't appear to be 3 in a row, we want to go changing everything. I just talked this morning about a team that I finished my career with and how patience has led to the most production. 3 coaches in 55 years. Nobody has more Vince Lombardi trophies than the Pittsburgh Steelers. They just changed offensive coordinators in midseason for the first time since 1941. In our league, if you look at the Carolina Panthers and David Tepper, in our league, change is not how you win. It is growth. It's learning from what you do. But if you planted a tree in the spring, and then next spring you're going to uproot it and move it over here, then the next time, no, let's put it over here. And then 5 years later, when that sapling hasn't grown, you say, what the hell's going on? Because you keep uprooting it. In fact, it might be good for the tree to be cared for by someone else, right? So that it's just patience leads to production in this sport. It really does. Now, anytime you hire a coach who's never been a head coach before, you've got to factor in the equation patience and time to grow. You didn't go and buy and pay for a ready-made head coach who already had all this boatload of experience. You did. I would say for the fact that we hired one who didn't have that head coach experience, he's done a really good job while learning on the job. He has. He's taken us to 2 straight AFC championship games. If we could block Aaron Donald, we'd have a Super Bowl. And he's done great, but he's continuing to learn. He's going to continue to grow. I would say, Zach, how can we help you? I want to see our guy get under center a little bit more. I want to see us have a higher run ratio of plays. I want to see us be a little bit more balanced, a little more intentional at coming off the ball and hitting the defender in the mouth. We play in the AFC North Division. It's a physical division. You want to block TJ Watt, you got to run at TJ Watt. If you want to block Myles Garrett, you got to run at him and force him to be two-dimensional and not just one-dimensional and chase our quarterback all day. How can we help you do that? See what I just did? And I don't mean taking his job from him and giving it to somebody else who's got to learn. So, no, Zack has handled crises very well. He's handled in-game decisions very well. I watch him coach against Kansas City, and I watch him beat Kansas City 3 out of 4 times. You know why? He understood clock management. He understood how to eat clock, not give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes, because that's how you lose. And I watched him do it while listening to the fans booing because they didn't know what he was doing. Like, what are we doing? We're not scoring here. We should be trying to score. No, we don't need more points. We need to not give the ball back to that guy, number 15 on the other side. That's exactly what he did, and we won the game. I'm telling you, he is not playing checkers. He's playing chess. And if I haven't convinced you, it's okay. But he's a really good coach, and he's in the above average. Now, is he perfect? No. Look, I've watched Andy Reid have the league's leading rusher and not even giving the ball in the second half of a playoff game, and they lose in the first round to the Tennessee Titans. I watched it. That's the great Andy Reid. So, and he's been doing it a whole lot longer than Zack. So I'm just trying to tell you, we need to really be careful what we ask for. Let's learn to appreciate what we got. Not every year is going to end in a bed of roses. Not every year is going to end. We got our guy hurt. We're going to try to get through the best of it. This is where our team builds character, guys. This is where we build character. Let's demand that we play hard, and we give everything we got to make ourselves better for next year. That's the expectation. Play hard in every single game. Make them earn everything they get. That's what happened when Steelers lose Ben Roethlisberger for the rest of the season, and they have, and still end up winning games. That's what happened the last 2 years when the Ravens lost Lamar Jackson. All these teams go through it. We're not immune from any of those things too, but it's how you respond to that. That's what makes you a champion. You don't fold the towel because our quarterback is lost for the season. We got 5 or 6 more games to play. Let's see what we got.
Well, I appreciate that insight. You're going to give me a little more patience, too, as my Syracuse Orange just hired a former Bengal that no previous head coaching experience like Zack, but just got to be patient because, yeah, there's, like you said, with Carolina, I think that's 4 years in a row that they're turning him over. And we know how patient we were with Marvin. I mean, Marvin would have been fired by probably 80% of the other franchises in the NFL. And Mike was patient with him, maybe to his fault, maybe not. But as fans, yes.
Here's the thing. He took you to the playoffs 5 straight times. Never before happened in Bengals history. Even when Zack arrived, he had players like Tyler Boyd. He had players like Joe Mixon. Those players were drafted by Marvin. Marvin helped build an infrastructure, things unseen by fans that helped. He helped elevate a Duke Tobin within the structure of this team and empowered him, helped me to find the players. That's people have to understand that. The organization is so much better for having had a Marvin Lewis than for not having him at all. And the things that he did for the organization is often unseen. Building an infrastructure for drafting talent is far better after Marvin Lewis than it was before Marvin Lewis.
We appreciate it. Again, as fans, I think win now, we're in a want it now, instant now world. And you alluded to, we've been spoiled the last couple of years going to 2 consecutive AFC championships. This is a bump in the road. As I said earlier, I think Zack's a great CEO. The foundation's there. We'll make some small changes in the offseason and be back reloaded. The one thing we haven't touched on tonight, and you tell us what you heard about Joe Burrow's surgery. From what we've heard, all has gone well, so that's positive. And now we'll see how soon we get him back for next year.
Look, he's a tough cookie now. This is a bad dude now. And look, we've gotten him hit a lot. Okay. I'm convinced that this team has put a lot of resources into building an offensive line and protecting. And we got to continue to do that. More importantly, we got to build an offense that's going to protect them, because just those 5 guys doesn't get it alone. You've got to begin to build an offense that does not allow your quarterback to get hit, doesn't allow, at least not at a high ratio, that protects him, that gets him out on the move, have field reads. There are a lot of things that we can do to get better around the quarterback, and that's really where the work should be focused on right now as we head into 2024.
We appreciate your comments, or your thoughts, your comments. See a lot of comments in the chat. Just appreciating your honesty, Solomon. So many people loved you as a player, loved your insight now on Sirius XM, and thankful for your time to come here and share your thoughts on your old ball club.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always great to be around Bengals fans. We all love this team, and we do. Our hearts break right now, but this is where we really show who we are as Bengal fans. We're proud Bengals fans. We're going to root for this team and root for the players, root for our coaches. And, I believe that through tough times that we can still find a way to steal a few victories, right? And finish better than maybe what people had anticipated. That's how you earn respect league-wide, to be honest with you. People are watching. They're like, okay, are they going to quit now that Joe Burrow's not around? Are they playing for a high draft pick? Do they go out and compete? That's what people are paying attention to now that Joe Burrow is sidelined. That's what's going to really earn us the respect as we head into the next season.
Well said, Solomon. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And we'll ride out these last 5 to 6 games, and we know the diehard fans will be there, and we'll hope for the best. And glad Joe's surgery went well, and keep listening to you on Sirius XM.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you,
Bye, guys.
Good day.
Take care. All righty, man. That was great. Solomon, I think, especially with that last answer, is probably the first person that said, hey, Zach's not our problem. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's his take. We'll see what happens in the off season. Obviously, there's some players that are going to be shuffled around, and it's going to be interesting.
Players are always shuffled around every year, now in the NFL. And there are a lot of coaches that won't be back next year, not necessarily being fired. I think there are a lot of guys whose contracts expire at the end of this year. The main reason I asked the question of Malik is the last offensive line coach who, under his watch, Joe Burrow got, severely hurt, was let go at the end of the year. And, that's been one constant. Joe keeps getting hit. Joe keeps getting sacked. This is the best the line has been since Zack Taylor has been here, but still he's getting hit too much and getting sacked too much, and teams know, especially on third down, how to attack us. So I thought it was interesting where when I asked him, and when I rewatched the show, I want to make sure I heard him right. Did he say you have a hole at right tackle, or you're going to have a hole at right tackle?
I think he said we did. I think he said we did have a hole at right tackle. But that's a great point. If you missed the show, or if you have a friend that said, hey, I heard this on Bengals last night, everything is archived on YouTube. So if you want to go back and listen to something, you can. We invite you to share this on your social media pages. As everyone said in the chat, 2 great guests. Malik's always great. He has his show with the First Star Logistics. Be sure to check that out. But we always enjoy having him on. And one of the Josh says we definitely have a hole at right tackle. Brian does. So there's 3, including Solomon. I think we have a hole at right tackle. Up here a little bit further, Mike was asking about Jacksonville, and we don't want to keep you too long here. The latest update is this. I'm going to pull up the graphic here if I can find it. That's not the graphic. That is the information on the tailgate. I'm going to put in the chat here the link if you haven't got tickets. We also have standing room only tickets. So if you're just looking for a cheap ticket into the game, Jacksonville's kind of unique where they have the pools or hot tubs there in the end zone. We'd love for you to join us. If you already have your game tickets, great. Stop by the tailgate. And if you're looking at, I don't even know what the stadium's called now, the south end of the Jacksonville Stadium. We're going to be between the stadium on the water where the water taxis pull up. It's called Metropolitan Park. There's a huge gator in. If you're in town earlier, walking around, you'll see that gator. That's where we're going to be. I think we're close to 900 now that already have tickets. We got plenty of room. You're not going to be jammed in there. Craig's done a great job doing all the legwork for the tailgate. So if you haven't got your ticket, we invite you to do so. We'd love to have you. It looks like 70 degrees all this weekend in Jacksonville. So show up. Have some fun. I believe we're going to have a Joe Burrow autographed jersey raffled off for our charity on Monday night. I think Tony confirmed that on Saturday. So we'll have that portion as always. And it's shaping up to be big. I mean, goodness gracious, if we were 8-3, I'd hate to think how many people are going to be that we're going to be there, but we're going to be over 1,000 as it is. There's always some last minute people that get their tickets day of when they decide what they're doing, and we'd love to have you there. What colors did we decide? What colors? I know that's Mike's asking that too. As far as I believe it's a blackout for Jacksonville. I want to say that night.
Blackout for Jacksonville.
And
you got to make the call, James. You're going to be down there.
I'm not. Stay tuned to social media, Mike. It's been back and forth on whether it's white or orange on what the color was going to be, but stay tuned. Again, it's just going to be a lot of fun. And then 2 weeks ahead, looking ahead, when the Colts come to town, that's another Toys for Tots game. So we did the Foster families along with Toys for Tots the past 2 weeks. Next Sunday, 2 Sundays from now, December 10th, that's going to be another opportunity to bring Toys for Tots down. We're not going to do the official 2-minute warning since we got a text from our Canadian. He fell asleep on the couch. He is not going to live that down.
Do I have to make a hard call here about the crooked letter hole of the week now?
Well, we said that was going to be the fan of the week. He was already late. Now to find out he slept.
Well, that's the fan of the week is completely different than the a-hole of the week. I mean,
says it's the goat milk.
Do we?
Andrea just says, "Damn it, Jamie." Ryan Robert says, "Fire the Canadian."
Wait a minute. Okay, yeah. Robert is fan of the week right there. Put him back up. Put him back. There he is. Robert, you are viewer of the week, fan of the week, but viewer of the week. Thank you very much. Man, do we redo who our other weekly award winner is now? I mean,
that's it. That is it. That kills two birds with one stone, thanks to Robert's comment. Joe's going to be in town for the Colts game, so appreciate you bringing that. John comes down from Pennsylvania with his lovely wife. He was down earlier this year, so this is our one trip. You know, good seeing y'all. Always comes by the tailgate. Next thing you know, he's there Sunday and had a great time. Had a chance to talk to some of our German friends that were there, and I'll get you their number when we get off the air here, John. But thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Let's see, what else do we have? They don't have Jamie's just taking a beat tonight.
He did it to himself.
Oh,
what did we get all day as we've been show prepping the last 48 hours? I'm not working today. I'm home, getting ready. I'm going to be there. I'm going to produce.
Yes.
And, nothing.
Nothing. Cricket. This is Ironman's comments, and I agree with you 100%. Good CEO, good, clean, runs a clean program, disciplinarian. But we'll see what happens. Again, we're not the ones making the calls. So, but Tom, you had a good point. A lot of the contracts are up after this year. I mean, I don't think we'll see everybody back on the assistant side. Somebody like Dan Pitcher could be poached for an offensive coordinator if Callahan's still here. So we'll see what happens. And then last but not least, we'd be remiss not to talk about this, Tom. This is kind of your bread and butter. Go ahead and talk about our man, Big Willie.
Willie Anderson was announced today as a semifinalist for the Hall of Fame. I believe this is his 4th year as a semifinalist and should be his either 3rd or 4th straight year also as a finalist. So what the Hall will do, there are 25 names. They will chop that to 15 in the coming weeks. I think right before Christmas, they'll announce that final 15 where Willie has been the last several years. And from that final 15, hopefully he's one of the 5 voted into the Hall of Fame. He deserves it. He's the best right tackle of his era. I know Jimmy posted a couple of endorsements today from Michael Strahan and Warren Sapp. It's a no-brainer. And we were given all kinds of excuses by some of the voters that we've had on, one of which was Tony Baselli has to go in first to clear the way. Tony Baselli's in. So it's Willie's time, and hopefully we as December goes on, we may have a couple of voters and Hall of Fame experts on to talk about the voting. But we got to get him in that final 15, and from there in that final 5. So Willie, congratulations. I interacted with him a little bit today, and he's pleased, but at the same time cautious.
Yeah. And then along those lines, we know a lot of people went up to Canton. I got an email from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. They're doing I don't know if it's Cyber Monday, was it today or yesterday, but I thought a lot of the stuff was discounted up there, which they had some cool Ken Riley stuff. So maybe if you missed it and want some of that, the Pro Football Hall of Fame had that on sale. Maybe it was yesterday. So if it was, I apologize. But as always, we appreciate the fans tuning in. We look forward to, if you're going to be in Jacksonville, stop on by, say hi. If not, we'd love to see you back in Lot E for the Colts game. Next week, you're going to call Jamie personally, Tom. Hopefully, Jimmy has his voice back. Tony doesn't have a migraine, and Mark's not driving.
What is Mark just for between 8 and 9:12? Is he just driving around the city? Well, what do we know? I mean, we get a message that he's driving. What does that mean?
We've had the Crack Man, the Detroit Superfan, on while driving. I think Jeff Blake's been on while driving. We've had many guests on while driving.
David Fulcher drove all the way from Dayton to his garage and didn't get out of the car. Continued to do the interview from his car in his garage.
Oh my goodness. Well, as always, we appreciate everyone tuning in. And what did you do to these guys? So, Andrea, we did not do anything to a Canadian. Who knows what the Canadian was doing? But I don't know. Old guys just can't run with the big dogs.
You can't bathe in goat milk and drink goat milk. You just it don't mix like that.
Or is it with a separate bottle?
I wonder if he put the drinkable goat milk in his bath and drank the goat milk bathing salts or whatever.
Oh goodness. All right, everybody. We'll see you Monday night in Jacksonville. If not, we're going to hurry up and race home to be here Tuesday. So as always, we appreciate everybody tuning in. Let's see. I'm still right. Okay. Brian, we appreciate it. As always, without you, the fans, this wouldn't be possible. So Hoo day, everyone. Again, stay positive. Like Solomon said, this is a speed bump in the road. We briefly touched on it. Joe's surgery has appeared to go well. So we'll continue keeping our fingers crossed, and we'll see you same time next Tuesday. So Hoo day, everybody. Have a great week.
Take
care.